And on today's show, selling the business to co-owners or employees. Part 2 of this week's series, The Top Business Succession Blueprints, with architect of the Blueprints for Tomorrow, Nate Sachs. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and InSmart. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Nate.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about this whole idea of closely held business owners and what do they face in succession planning. You've been doing this for a long time.
38 years.
So talk about that, because you have over 1,000, or a couple thousand.
2,000.
Business owners that have went through this with you over the last couple decades. So talk about it.
95% of all transitions that take place will be in what we call an inside transition, defined by two children or family, co-owners, key employees, and or managers. 65% of the time, the buying team will be wrong. Someone that was on it should not have been. Someone that wasn't on it should have been. Half the time, it will fail. 80% of all businesses, remember I said 95% of all transitions that take place will be inside, but 80% of all businesses never get to a transition. They just close their doors.
So even if I have a successful practice, most of the time, 80-something% of the time.
If you got a successful business today, there's an 8% chance someday you'll close the doors and just die a natural death.
And then you just said they also choose the wrong team members on the transition.
They've either excluded somebody that should have been part of a transition, or they've included someone that probably should not have been part of a transition.
How can you help a business owner that's watching this show and saying, I need to make those decisions, keep me out of those traps?
We have to help the business owner phase him or herself out of the day-to-day operations, begin to grow the company around the new set of owners. Most importantly, get the owners to think like owners, the new owners, because they don't. They still think like employees. Find the money, because whether it's family, whether it's co-owners, whether it's management, key employees, rarely do they have the money. Get a guaranteed income stream payable to the owner. Minimize taxation to both the owners and sellers. And most importantly, make sure the owner does not come back 3 years later and have to buy the business again by default at half the price.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second. How many times does that happen?
More often than you think, because the buyers, regardless who the insiders were, just couldn't get it done. They ran it in the ground. Now the owner's got to come back in and salvage it, and it's worth half of what it was.
When you see this, you've seen this so many times, and look at some of the traps and the things that happen that really make succession a failure. How can I go now and start to, this process you bring up is I need to pull away from my business and become more of a CEO than I need to really be in the business.
True. More of what I call hands-off owner. Let this become a standalone entity. Get the business systematized, processed, organized so it can run without you.
Well, let's say I agree with what you're saying. Let's say I'm a business owner and I hear what you just said. How do I do my first steps? It sounds like I'm not going to be able to just do this easily.
It's baby steps, but I want you to think about a McDonald's franchise, because that resonates with all of our listeners today. Would you agree? Everybody's been in one. They're very successful. When is the last time you walked in, someone said, "May I take your order? I'm the owner." They're never there. They've got those things running perfect, 24 hours a day, some of them, 7 days a week, without having to be on premises. The owner's got to learn to do the same thing. Can I organize it, process it, systematize it, so it doesn't require me to micromanage it?
Okay, so my first day, I'm hearing you out. You're telling me what I need to do. I appreciate it, and I'm going to do it. What am I? Oh, but I won't do it.
Not the first day.
Okay. So is it shock? It's a shock to a system.
It's a process. Oh my goodness, yes. If you're going to pull away from your business, figure a 3 to 5 year time slot to get it done successfully.
So that process of decentralizing yourself, pulling yourself out of the mix, takes that long usually?
To do it right.
To do it right.
To get the right players in place, to get them to think like owners, find the money, take care of tax ramifications, and get you emotionally, physically, financially, psychologically set to walk away.
Now, we may have business owners watching this show right now, and remember, some of them are even advisors. So if they're going to transition, they shouldn't be looking at age 65 to come and talk to you.
Too late.
Too late.
Too late.
So when I know I'm about 5 years out, this is when we need to have these discussions.
This is when you need to have, because by the last 2 years, 18 months at least, it should be running without you. And more importantly,
you're still there, it's just running without you.
And more important, the most important thing, Steve, I need you away from that business 50% of the time to make sure you can emotionally do it. Because psychologists say if you're not in that 50% turn off mode, you're not prepared to walk away. So that last couple of years, I only want you working half time.
What's the key to disengagement?
Key to disengagement is to really want to do it, commit to do it, and be held accountable. Accountability is the key.
If I am ready to try to do this, even though you say many times they don't. But let's say you have a business owner, he sees the value of what you're saying, he knows he wants to do this. Sometimes when he has something in the future, another interest, a hobby, something he wants to do, that kind of helps kind of escalate, or I would say increase the transition.
He's got to have something to turn to the day he wakes up and no longer owns that business. Otherwise, the statistics are staggeringly against him.
And how many business owners have that?
Very few.
So they have nothing in their future on their table for interests, hobbies, travel, whatever.
We call it every day is a Sunday. It sounds like a lot of fun waking up every Sunday, and after about Monday. But after 3 or 4, it gets really old.
Wow. When we come back from the break, we're going to continue with Nate's, I would call it more pastoral and kind of psychological. I feel like I'm on a couch walking through this. We'll be right back in a moment. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to the second segment. We're with Nate Sachs. Nate, you're walking us through some of the ideas and concepts, because really the mathematics, the actual planning, all this is the easy part. What we're talking about is the hard part.
The hard part, improving cash flow, growing the company, cleaning up the messes, delegating what the owner shouldn't be doing, getting the right people in the right seats on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, and then getting that bus in the right direction, Steve.
I have to say, Tuesday night is my Shark Tank watching. I always watch Shark Tank, but after that is this new show called The Profit. And this guy goes into businesses, and it is like shock and awe to the system of these owners. And some of the things you're talking about are some of the things he addresses. When you're talking about owners disengaging from their business because they want to, they have an end game, they see life after retirement, a lot of things you say. But one thing I've heard you say many times in your seminars is, they're actually in their bedroom at 2 a.m. staring up at the ceiling.
Exactly.
What is going on? What's keeping him awake at night?
They're usually just concerned about what I call the 4 what ifs. What if I don't want to do this any longer? What are my options? What's going to happen to me when I'm no longer here? No longer here being in the business. What if something should happen to me physically? What would happen to my family, to my business, and the families that depend upon my business? What if I don't attract, retain, and maximize key employees? And what if I don't improve cash flow and grow this company?
Mm-hmm. Think about, I'm just curious on one of these.
These are the demons that chase them around that room at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Speak about you wrote a book.
Slaying the Demons.
Slaying the Demons. These are the things you're talking about
Yes.
in that book. When you talk about this, especially how big is it? And when I'm thinking of leaving the business, I'm thinking, what do I care about employee retention?
You do, because some of these people, I mean, I've got a small company, smaller than a lot of other business owners I work with, but I've got some people that have been with me for a long, long time. My first concern would be what's going to happen to them. Mm-hmm. I feel as obligated to their families as I do to mine.
How does a business owner see the value of getting this all prepared before he makes his beginning of his exit plan?
That's a sales job sometimes, because unfortunately business owners are bulletproof. They fly by the seat of their pants. As I always say, businesses do not come with owner's manuals. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say chapter 15. How do I properly lead my business?
I've heard you speak about creating processes that will help him migrate away from the daily chores of his business, but those processes actually become dollar values at the sale.
Huge.
So
huge.
Talk about this, because I think this is where we have many business owners watching us today. This could be something that they could really pick up on, and if they could get it, this could actually make the value of their business even greater than it is.
We focus on 3 things: improving cash flow and growing the company. Because an inside transition, most likely the buyer is going to have to buy the owner out of cash flow. So it better be there. Second of all, how to get the owner to let go. Focus on the things he or she really does uniquely well and get rid of the minutia. Quit wearing all the hats they wear. Quit putting out fires. Quit assuming responsibility for others. Quit doing $15 an hour jobs because no one else is doing it. And then the third is actually making that emotional detachment, to realize there is more to life than just running that business.
Mm-hmm. In my process, now let's say I've been running, most of our business owners that I've heard you talk about this, they seem to be running on the seat of their pants. They don't have protocols installed, no procedures. So when you're bringing this kind of new shock and awe structure into a business, how do you introduce basic concepts of procedure?
We do it in baby steps. I micromanage the process. Our planning sessions are no longer than 30 minutes. I don't want to overwhelm my business owner with all this new complexity.
That means any meeting.
Any meetings, 30 minutes or
You're
less.
always contained. Why did you choose 30 minutes?
Because we spent a lot of money with neuromarketers when we started our program over a decade ago. And the one thing that resonated, many things resonated, but after 12 minutes, you've lost the business owner, you've lost their attention. Even if they're sitting there talking to you.
And they're engaged.
They're engaged. In their mind, they're already multitasking. So 30 minutes seems to be the sweet spot. Give me 30 minutes, and if you know I'm coming tomorrow at 10, I'll be done by 10:30. That may likely happen. If you know I'm coming tomorrow at 10, I'll be gone by 12. There's a good chance I'll get canceled.
So you've seen this work, and you've really been confined times, definitive times.
One step at a time, one action step at a time, but knowing we're going to only design the blueprint. I play the role of financial architect. I don't build the building for them. I don't show them how to build it. I show them how it's going to look. So let's get the blueprint laid out, and then once that's done, then we'll begin to implement step by step.
Is this the first time a business owner is seeing a vision?
I'd say quite often, yes.
So this is revelatory to him. This is brand new.
I like being revelatory.
Well, I'm just thinking, I'm coming to you what it's going to look like, and he goes, I never saw that in my future.
They saw a future, they just didn't know how it was going to look.
When I'm installing my first couple of procedures, because you're going to have to understand, you, or as the advisor, you're going to have to understand the business. And you're going to have to figure out a process that he's never introduced ever in his business life. But he's got certain things that he's doing that might be successful. How do you separate the successful things from the things that are causing him failure?
Again, just looking at his frustrations, focusing not on the dollars and the cents and the tax returns and the financials, but the demons. What are those demons that worry you? What's going on in your heart and soul? I talk to him in a way that most advisors never talk to him. Same thing as this. This is an amazing piece of technology. I've talked about it several times. You had a vision how it was going to work. It took a lot of work to get to the vision. You just didn't turn it on and wow, it's there.
Right. Without my technology and my helpers, it would never work.
I might have a vision how my exit is going to look. Doesn't mean it's going to happen without a blueprint.
When I think about all the things you've dealt with, I mean, over 2,000 business owners have walked through your process, and you've tweaked this and made adjustments throughout the last decade.
Throughout the last day.
Oh, that's really, so we're still somewhat liquid.
Yes.
We're always trying to do things to improve this transition process. This is the greatest transition a person will ever go through in their life, isn't it?
And they can't do it over again. There's no do-overs.
Wow.
They do it wrong, they can't do it over again. No mulligans.
Well, that's our show for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance department. Miss an episode? You can view all our past episodes at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant for Nate Sachs. We'll see you tomorrow.